Chapter 29 is the beginning of Konoha's destruction, or perhaps even the entire shinobi world. Or maybe, in the end, this will actually lead to a good ending. Yep, that's probably the best way to represent the overall story of this chapter. However, as usual, for at least the next 8 minutes, there's something I'm confident will not be boring to talk about. First and foremost, after the revelation of a conversation between Momoshiki and Boruto's souls, especially how the majority assumed that they had become one, Chapter 29 has revealed or proven the truth behind all our curiosity. In other words, it says that if they have become one completely, that is the reality. But if we look back and observe more deeply the dialogue in this chapter, there is something that is truly contradictory. Yeah, maybe at least from a few sentences. Contradiction is the most relevant to represent this case, a condition where two statements or actions contradict each other. In short, when Boruto tells Momoshiki about compensation, such as, "I'll give you my body if you help me kill Jura," of course this is a ridiculous thing. Although not entirely ridiculous, at least when Momoshiki states that their thoughts are connected and that nothing can be hidden or lied about, this is where a scenario, or perhaps more accurately, a contradiction occurs. Regardless of the final outcome, whether Boruto gives his body to Momoshiki or not, I'm sure the majority of fans would agree that Boruto wouldn't be stupid enough to give his body to Momoshiki, right? Because once again, starting from chapter 25, which revealed the negotiations between the two, since then, we all had the same belief that Boruto would not foolishly give his body to Momoshiki, even though they are both cunning or something like that. But honestly, chapter 29 secretly broke a statement or the fans' expectations. I mean, how could Boruto deceive Momoshiki by saying he wouldn't give him his body when, in fact, their minds are connected and nothing can be hidden or lied about? Even Boruto himself says in this chapter that he doesn't have to say he's serious about this negotiation, especially about guaranteeing his body if he helps defeat Jura, because Momoshiki should already know without being told that Boruto is serious, right? So with that fact in mind, how exactly could Boruto possibly deceive Momoshiki? Because, as I mentioned earlier, this is clearly a massive contradiction. Boruto knows everything inside Momoshiki's mind, and Momoshiki also knows what's going on inside Boruto's head. With this evidence, it seems almost impossible for Boruto to trick Momoshiki by not giving up his body once they truly defeat Jura. Yeah, you know what I mean, right? So, at the very least, for this case, we're going to focus on two conflicting points. Because of course, even though Momoshiki has stated that he will kill Kawaki after he is free, to find out and analyze more deeply how Boruto deceives Momoshiki by not giving him his body, this should be done first before moving on to step 2, which is killing Kawaki. Yes, you know what I mean, right? So what is the main point and how to solve this mystery? Specifically, how did Boruto trick Momoshiki into not giving him his body if he defeated Jura, when neither of them could lie to each other or hide anything from each other? Well, at least these two reasons are a scenario that I think makes perfect sense for Boruto to do so, that he can still gain power and defeat Jura without having to give his body to Momoshiki. First, Boruto must use mind manipulation, or perhaps it would be more accurate to describe this as a delay or an intention that he did not fully think through. I know it may sound confusing and difficult to understand. Perhaps to put it briefly at this point, Boruto must be more focused and dominant in thinking about how to defeat Jura and ask Momoshiki to help him. What I mean is, in this context, there are two things we need to know and understand: thoughts and intentions. Logically, we know that thoughts are what are going on in a person's head, whether it be internal dialogue, doubts, calculations, or active focus on a single goal. Because thoughts themselves are constantly changing. They can change from second to second, right? Because these second to second changes can be influenced by various factors which are undoubtedly very complex. And most importantly, thoughts can be controlled, they can be held back, they can be directed. In Boruto's case, his active or dominant thought is only one: asking Momoshiki to lend him his power and defeat Jura. And that's what Momoshiki sees. And of course, that's what he reads. There are no lies and nothing can be hidden. As for intent, that's on a different level. Intent isn't a thought process, it's the final decision, something that may not appear until the last moment arrives. Yeah, you know what I mean, right? As long as that decision hasn't been made, the intent doesn't exist. And since it doesn't exist, there's nothing to read and nothing to reveal. Boruto never formed the intention to betray Momoshiki, not because he was hesitant, but because there was something he had to prioritize. Because, once again, at this point, Boruto understood and realized that with the fact that their minds were connected, where they knew what each other was thinking and not intending, at least Momoshiki or Boruto couldn't lie to each other. So, in short, knowing that fact, one of the choices Boruto should make is to postpone his intention for that decision, because by delaying the decision itself, that would be the opening. Momoshiki reads Boruto's mind, but all he sees is the resolve to fight, to become strong, and to defeat all enemies, because ultimately, thoughts are what we think about now. Meanwhile, intention is what we decide far beyond what is in our thoughts. And once again, I know this might be difficult to understand, but I'm sure you understand what I mean. Second, this might sound silly or even ridiculous, but if we look at it from another perspective, do you agree with the concept of a blind spot? Yeah, I'll be honest, I'm still a bit confused about how to phrase this in the most ideal way. But what I'm really trying to say is this: even if it's a fact that they can read and know each other's thoughts, is it possible that there are certain exceptions? Things that simply cannot be read or seen through their shared minds. To put it simply, when two beings become one and their minds are connected, is it possible that there's a gap or a moment that turns into a weakness, causing them to not fully understand or read each other's thoughts completely? Because no matter how you look at it, that idea actually makes a lot of sense. Even if they can't lie to or hide things from each other, there must still be gaps, moments where something slips through the cracks, whether it's Boruto or even Momoshiki himself. After all, believe it or not, weaknesses don't always come from great power, as Itachi once said. Instead, in every aspect, especially the mind, there will always be blind spots that exist beyond the limits of one's own abilities, right? So, as a final conclusion, for cases where this is really difficult, especially the fandom's assumption that Boruto wouldn't be stupid enough to give his body to Momoshiki, at least starting from different thoughts and intentions, plus the possibility of blind spots where they miss what the other is thinking. At least that's what I think makes the most sense. So simply put, Boruto didn't deceive Momoshiki with lies, but with assumptions. Yeah, that's how it is. But again, if you find a more relevant or reasonable explanation, let me know in the comments. And of course, do you still expect Boruto not to give his body to Momoshiki if they manage to defeat Jura? Yeah, I think if it doesn't end up like Eren Yeager, Boruto probably won't do that, right? So yeah, thanks for watching. I'm Nim without the E. See you in the next video. Bye-bye. Data bio.